Hi everyone. So today I'm going to be showing you how to create a large-scale poster using Microsoft PowerPoint. I am running the Mac OS El Capitan, and I have the latest version of Microsoft PowerPoint for Mac. So hopefully this is very similar to what you have on the computers at school. I do suggest using the Mac side of the computers and also taking advantage of either the iMacs or the large monitors in the library, as it will help you see the poster a lot better. Um, I've also found that the iMac monitors or the nice monitors in the library have a more true color representation. So it helps when you are looking at it on the screen and then when you see it printed out in paper. You should have seen an actual version of my poster that I did on William Beckford's Vatek. Here it is, just to show you what it looks like on the computer. You can see that it is different. The colors are somewhat different. Um, you can see sort of what I was trying to do with the text. This area down here was the area that was the most difficult in this orange text. And you can see it didn't come out as well as I was hoping on the actual poster. But you can sort of see the difference between how it looks when it's printed and then how it looks on the screen. So we're going to be working on a similar poster. I'm going to use the same size as the Vatek poster. However, you can customize that to whatever side fits your needs. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is open up Microsoft PowerPoint. You're going to select a blank presentation. And the first thing you want to do when it does open up is I always make it full screen, just so I have more space to work with. You're going to delete any of the text boxes or elements that are on the slide. I'm just clicking on the edge of them and hitting my delete key so that you have nothing but an actual blank slide. The next thing that we have to do is actually resize the slide, and you'll want to do this right away so that you make sure anything you're putting into the slide is going to be, you're going to have an actual representation of the size that it's going to be. So you come up here, we see the different tabs here. We're going to go to Design, and over here there's a Slide Size, and I'm going to go down to Page Setup. And right here you can see that you have a width and a height. So for the Vatek poster, the finished size was 42 inches wide, but I left a 1-inch margin, so that's going to be a 40-inch wide PowerPoint slide. PowerPoint doesn't allow you to create margins, so you're going to work right to the edge of your canvas. So you'll want to make the PowerPoint slide size equal to that you want the final poster to be, minus the margins, if that makes sense. So I want my final poster to be 42 inches wide, and that is the maximum for the printers at the school right now. So I'm going to subtract the inch off each side and make it 40 inches wide. And then for my height, the Vatek poster was 34 inches in its finished product, so I'm going to make this 32, again allowing for that 1-inch margin on the top and the bottom. So just go ahead and click OK. And since there's no content, this doesn't really matter, so you can just say don't scale. And here it is. Now you have an actual representation of what the poster will look like. You can see it looks quite square on the screen, even though it's not when it's actually printed out. But now you have a blank canvas to work with. So the first thing that I always do when I'm creating this is I pick my background color. And to do this, you're going to want to click up here where it says Format Background. And you're going to have several options where it says Fill. We see solid color, gradient fill, picture or texture fill, pattern fill. I don't advise doing a picture or texture or a pattern. They tend to be very busy in the background, and they tend to not come out as well as you hope they would. So you can do a solid fill or a gradient fill. For the Vatek poster, I actually used a gradient fill, where if we come back over here, you can see it fades as it goes from the bottom corner up to the top. So you're welcome to do that, or you can just do a solid fill. You can change your background color at any point during your presentation, so don't worry if you, mess up with it now and realize you need something different or you need a little bit darker, something like that. But try to think about what you want the main color of the poster to be, the main draw. And then that's also going to determine, how your pictures are going to look when they're placed on it, or how your text is going to look, or what colors you can use for text. For example, if you use a very dark background, you're only going to be able to use light colored texts. Or if you use a very light background, you're going to need dark contrasting texts. So I'm going to select solid fill here, and that brings us to our first issue, which is, you see down here, color. And here are the theme colors, and then if we go down to more colors, we get our color wheel and many options up here. So this is a first resource, and it should be in a handout as well that you'll have access to. But I have a horrible time picking colors from just these limited options that are listed here. So I use the site color-hex.com. I think this is a really wonderful site. If we go home here, it starts off by showing you the user's latest favorite colors, which will sort of give you an idea of like almost the trending colors. But you see underneath it has the hex code for each of the colors, which is wonderful because we can put that right into PowerPoint and recreate that color. But the thing that I love the most about it is that you see up here it says latest palettes and palettes. So if we go to palettes and say popular palettes, here you have a list of color palettes that users have created that are designed to go with each other. So if you're wondering, how to find a background color and a text color that's not going to clash, that's going to look visually pleasing, but also be contrasting or be brighter, this is a wonderful way to do it. And there's hundreds and hundreds of these on the site. So you can look through and pick any palette that sort of fits what you want for your poster. And what I always suggest is think about your content. Think about your topic, your subject, your book, and keep that in mind while you're doing this and while you're picking colors and choosing fonts. For Vatek, I tried to do that as much as I could with sort of keeping a gothic air about it. The darker colors with the fonts, sort of keeping almost an ominous atmosphere to the poster and sort of more of classical color schemes, neutrals and darker tones. So keep that in mind when you're choosing yours. For this example poster, I'm going to be doing the Velveteen Rabbit in honor of the Easter season. So I'm going to pick a more of a pastel color palette here. So let's see, there's a pastel. You can always also include colors from other palettes as well. I like this one right here, but I also like some of the colors in here. But we'll go right here to pastel palette. And here it lists it. It shows you a large image of the colors, so you can get a really good, clear picture of what they look like. And then you also get these wonderful hexadecimal codes up here and the RGB codes that you can put right into PowerPoint. So I think for my background, I'm going to choose this nice sort of yellow cream color. And I'm going to use the hex code, but I'll also show you how to put in the RBG. So I'm just going to copy paste, which of course on an Apple computer is Command C and Command V to paste. And if you go over here, you're going to see a couple options at the top. You're looking for the one that's a slider. And the default is gray scale slider, but if you use this drop down, you can see RGB sliders. And then this is the cyan magenta slider. So I'm going to pick the RGB slider. And that gives you two things. You can use that RGB code, which we saw right here. It's always listed in red, green, and blue. So you just input those numbers, or you can just copy paste that hexadecimal code, which I did right into there, leaving out the pound sign. And then when you press OK, here it is. A solid color fill of exactly the same color, exactly the same as it looks in this color palette, and I've duplicated it here. So now that we have the color picked for the background, what we're going to want to do really before you pick text colors for your body or anything else, even before you put your images in, is you're going to want to give your poster a title. And this is important because if you look on the Vatek, the title is quite large. This is a very large font at the top. But depending upon how long your title is, it may have to come down on a second line, and that's going to take a lot of space on your poster. So before you start adding other elements in, make sure you create your title. So we can do this really easily by coming over to Insert, and we're going to use a text box. Just draw a general text box. It doesn't matter the size. It will adjust later. And the first thing that you're going to do is just type in whatever you want your title to be. You can always change this later, but you're just going to want to type into the text box. Don't worry about size right now or color or anything else. So I'm just going to call this a closer look. Whoops, if I could spell. Look at the Velveteen Rabbit. And spell check is our friend. So a closer look at the Velveteen Rabbit, that'll do for me for now. So then if you select and highlight all of the text here, and you come up to where it says Home, you're going to have the options for formatting size and actual text. So if you drop down your font collections, there's a lot in here that look, you can have a lot of fun with these. The only thing is that keep in mind that you're going to want to use something that's going to look clear from a distance to your audience, because you're going to want this title to catch their eye, and you want them to be able to read it even if they're standing away from your poster. So I sort of like this Apple Chancery for my title, so I'm going to use that. It's pretty clear. It's a little embellished, but once it's at a larger size, we'll still be able to see it very well. And then if you select all of the font again, you can select your size. So what I was always told is that usually about a 72 font winds up creating in a standard font like Calibri or Times New Roman or that kind of thing, creates font that's about 1 inch. So I'm going to want it quite a bit larger than 72. But you'll see that this only goes up to 96. So you can actually type anything in here. So if we just double, try to create about a 2-inch font. Again, there's no guarantee that the fonts are all sized sort of differently, but one of the wonderful things about using the text box is that if you stretch it out and then you click here, as if you're going to go and move it, it'll tell you the height and the width. So I know that the whole text box height is about 2.52 inches. So my text is pretty close to 2 inches. It might be a little larger than that, but that's a good way to tell what your if you look at the size of your text box, to know how big your text is going to be. So one of the things that's always important is to get it centered and in the right position. So if we click on the text box itself so that none of the text is highlighted, and we go over here to Shape Format, you can see where it says Arrange. And if you look at Arrange, this allows you to align your text. So we're going to align it in the center, and then we're also going to align top. So if we do that, then it's right at the top of the page, and I don't quite like that, but the nice part is that then I can just drag it straight down without losing that center alignment, and drag it straight down to sort of where I do want it to be. You can always go back up here and say Align Center again, just in case it's sort of moved. So there is the actual title at the top. Again, that's going to be about a 2-inch, 2.25-inch font. So that should be pretty good. If I wanted to make it even larger, I can just come up here and go to Home, type in your new size. Let's see what 160 looks like. Quite a bit bigger. Stretch out the text box to keep it all on one line. Go back up here to Shape Format, Arrange, Align, Align Center. So there we go. I sort of like the larger for this, the 160. So I'm going to leave it at that, but I do not like the black. So here's a wonderful place where we can go back to our palette. and see if any of these colors strike as a color that we would want to use, a good strong contrasting color for the title. I sort of like this darker aqua, this darker sea green. So I'm going to see what that is and copy the hex code for it again and see how that looks on my poster. So to do this for text, it's very similar to doing it for the background. You're going to select all of the text. You're going to come back up to Home, which we're on here. Oh, I made it disappear. And then here is the actual font color. You're going to drop down this, and just like with the background, you're going to say More Colors. It's already on our RGB sliders because that was the last that we used. And then it's already highlighted for hex. So we're just going to paste that in and say OK. So now, there it is at the top. I can see how it looks when it's actually placed in contrast against this yellowy cream. Something that also might help is if we Command A to select all, and then Command B to make it bold. That's going to sort of increase the contrast between the texts even more. And I think I really like that, so that might be the color that I stick with here. I'm not sure, but we'll leave it for now. Once you have your title at the top, you have a good solid background color that you want to work with. The next step is going to be choosing images and also writing your text. So in a minute here we will look at actually placing in some images and text. But first I do want to show you guys some tricks when it comes to searching for images and making sure you get a high enough resolution image that it's going to look clear even when it's printed in this large scale.